Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Todd Klindt's SharePoint Netcast numero 201, recorded live on Monday, June 2nd, 2014. I, of course, am your host and legendary anchorman, Todd Klindt, and all of this fine stuff, the studio, the equipment, everything was all made possible by the fine folks at Rackspace. You can see bits and pieces of my Rackspace flag there. I've done a horrible job hanging that, but it says Rackspace Hosting at the top, and they make all of this possible. And you can go out to sharepoint.rackspace.com and ask them all of your SharePoint questions, and they will happily answer them. And we've got stuff on there about our SharePoint offerings and our products, and we've got netcasts and stuff and hugs from teddy bears, the whole 9 yards. And that's all out at sharepoint.rackspace.com. And if they don't get 100 page views from this netcast, they're going to take me out in the parking lot and beat me with a chair. So so you got that going for you. If you don't want to see me beaten with a chair, please go out there to sharepoint.rackspace.com. Please, they beat me. Honest to God, they beat me. So next up, production notes, and I noticed that my chair's covering up my monitor here. Oh, so much better. Okay, so production notes. Took a week off last week, which was nice, though I did realize that out of 3 weeks I only did one netcast because I didn't do one for Tech Ed, and then I was back, and then Memorial Day. But I'm well rested now. The audio video sync issues are still there. They seem to have subsided a little bit. I think I've got it narrowed down to my new camera and the new version of the software that I use to record it. So I meant to test something else today. I meant to test recording directly inside of Camtasia, and I flat out forgot. So that's all my fault, though I feel comfortable blaming that on Lori, because normally she reminds me to do things, and she didn't remind me to do that today. Now, Lori's rebuttal to that will be, I didn't know you were going to do that, and I didn't know I was supposed to remind you. But see, that's the job of the scapegoat. You take the blame for things. So hopefully next week I'll test this new software out and see if that works a little better. But that does give me a chance to plug my shirt. I got a couple of shirts at Tech Ed. You know, Tech Ed was a couple of weeks ago. Got some free shirts. And so this one is actually from the people that make Camtasia, Snagit, or people who make Camtasia and Snagit TechSmith. So it says TechSmith captured my heart, which is funny because it's screen capture software. Clever devils there at TechSmith. But I use Camtasia to put all this together, to edit it all and render it all and all that kind of stuff. And I use Snagit for every one of my screen captures. I've got Snagit installed in every box that I have. And it's life-changing software. It's great stuff. So if you haven't gone out there to techsmith.com, grab Snagit, grab Camtasia. Good stuff. All very good. But that's all for production notes. So hopefully, and the other one, 200 took a while to get out. I kind of staggered that since I took the next week off. I like to spread those out. That, and I'm just lazy. So it took a while to come out, but it should all be out. On to topics. So there's a couple of big ones that I wanted to talk about this week. The first one is a sad note, and I think we'd seen signs that this was going to come, but I think deep down none of us could really believe that it was going to happen until it actually happened, and then we were all kind of in denial and all that. But the best ULS log viewer software on the planet from MSDN, the ULS log viewer, it's gone. The project's been killed. It's been out there for 3 years or 4 years or something, and they have a rule that they take stale projects out, and that one hadn't been updated since like when SharePoint 2010 came out, and it's gone. So you can't go to MSDN anymore and download the ULS Viewer. It's a pretty sad day. Now, of course, any SharePoint administrator worth his or her salt has a copy of that somewhere, but machines get formatted and all that. So I don't know if it is legal or not, but I have mirrored the file. So the ULS log viewer, for those of you that haven't had the pleasure yet, is a standalone executable. It's 500 kilobytes of SharePoint monitoring goodness. It's a standalone executable. You just run it. You point it at your ULS logs on your SharePoint server. It lets you watch them real time and sort them and filter them and slice them and dice them and do all kinds of stuff. You can import, you can export, you can load live, you can load not live, everything you need. It's a little, the interface is a little tweaky, a little weird, but it's a great tool, and we've been using it for 4 years now, 5 years now, and it's been great. So, but now it's gone. You can't download it, and I have mirrored the executable on my site. So you can go to toddklindt.com/ULS Viewer, and that will just link you up to the download. So it's going to try to download ulsviewer.exe_. So just save that out, and then obviously rename it so it doesn't have an underscore, and that's the ULS Viewer. So there's nothing to it. A couple of people in the chat room are asking if the source code is out there. It might have been out there. Honestly, I don't know. I'm not a developer, so I didn't ever look, and I don't know if you can go to like archive.org and check that out. I don't know. Jack's got an idea for the URL, bringbackulsviewer.com. I wish I'd have thought of that. If that's still available when this podcast is done, I will absolutely buy that and put something up. Absolutely. But it's gone now, but you can get it, toddklindt.com/ULS Viewer. If you don't have it already, for goodness sakes, grab it. It's my opinion that that executable should exist on every SharePoint 2010 and SharePoint 2013 server on the planet, near the planet, whatever. It's just that great of a tool, and it's indispensable. I use it every day when I'm troubleshooting SharePoint stuff. So check that out if you haven't already. On the heels of that, and this was something I meant to talk about a while back, and I actually may have, because I think this is an old blog post, but a friend of mine, Tobias Zimmergren, posted, I guess this is only from January, posted a blog post in January with his favorite tools for his development environments. Now, I don't have a development environment. I don't try to do developer stuff. Honestly, those folks kind of weird me out a little bit. I don't know if you've noticed, developers are kind of creepy. But as far as creepy developers go, Tobias is pretty good. He's got some weird bright yellow pants. I don't know what's up with that. But other than that, other than being a developer and having bright yellow pants, he's a pretty good guy. But he's got this blog post where he lists all of his favorite development tools. And I bring this up because the ULS Viewer is on that list, but he's got a bunch of other great tools. Now, just because it's for developers doesn't mean that there's not good tidbits in there for us admins. There is. And if you kind of go through the list, there's 10 or 12 of them in there, I forget. But you'll see some old friends, ULS Viewer, things like that. But you'll also see some new stuff you may not have used before. So just kind of give you an idea, there's a few of my favorites are on there. We'll talk about a couple of them. ULS Viewer, obviously. SharePoint Manager is one. SharePoint Manager, also known as SPM, is a Codeplex project, and you can get to it at spm.codeplex.com, and it lets you kind of browse the object model inside of SharePoint. So it allows you to connect to a farm, and you see like the farm, and then you expand that out, and you get your servers and your web apps. You expand your web apps out, you get your site collections, webs, kind of like that thing. But it lets you walk through the object model, see what lists are there, see what their properties are, all that kind of stuff. Also lets you look at the values and things like that. Just a great little tool for investigating things, kind of seeing what's going on behind the scenes. spm.codeplex.com. Great little tool for just poking around there and investigating things. He's got some stuff for branding. There's some color palette things, stuff like that. And Jack kind of brings up an interesting point. If you see any of these tools you think you might ever use, for goodness sakes, go download them right now, because you never know when they're going to disappear, like the ULS Viewer did. But so another one of my favorite tools is the SharePoint Search tool, and I've used this one within the last couple of weeks. This is a standalone executable, but it lets you do queries against the SharePoint Search service app. So one of my favorite examples of this was, and this was SharePoint 2007, it was a different tool, but the same kind of thing. I had an issue where a customer was crawling a file share, and they couldn't find PDF files by name. They could find a PDF file. They couldn't do a query and get a PDF file back by name, which is funny because that's the thing that always works. It's the content stuff that doesn't work. You could search for content inside of a PDF file, and then the PDF file would show up, and it would have the right name. But if you search for the PDF file name coming from a file share, they wouldn't show up. And it was really difficult to troubleshoot. And what I ended up doing was using a search tool like this one, but it was one that worked with 2007. And I did the query for the contents so that I could get the XML back that had the file, the results in it. And what I found was SharePoint 2007, that particular build, had a bug when it would copy the file across the network and save it locally to the SharePoint server to crawl it. It would generate a random name for that file, and that was getting saved as the file's name. So if you searched for, foo.pdf, it wouldn't show up because it thought the name was, randomgwid.pdf or something. But that was something I could have never figured out just by the search results page in SharePoint. It was a tool like this that did it. And there have been all kinds of weird little search things that I've used this kind of tool for. So if you go to that SP2013 searchtool.codeplex.com, you can use that. Like I said, I've used that in the last month to troubleshoot search issues. So another tool that Tobias has in there that's a friend of the Netcast, one that I use all the time, is Fiddler. If you haven't had the pleasure of using Fiddler yet, go to fiddler2.com/get-fiddler. And Fiddler is what's called a web debugging proxy. It's software that wedges itself between your client and your server and lets you watch the communication back and forth. And it is invaluable for troubleshooting authentication issues, timeout issues, all kinds of crazy stuff. Just a tremendous tool. And it's kind of a developer-ish tool because the idea is you can see the requests and you can tweak the requests and send them back. But as an IT pro, I use Fiddler all the time. I don't consider any machine ready to go for a SharePoint guy unless it's got Fiddler on it. It's a really, really good tool. So that's another one that Tobias has out there. And some other stuff. And here's another one, and probably, I think there's probably one person in the chat room that probably uses this one. This one is from Redgate, and it's called Reflector. And what Reflector does is it lets you crack open assembly files, DLLs, and kind of see what's going on inside. It lets you figure out what methods and properties and things like that are in there. I don't use Reflector much because I'm just not, I'm partially too lazy and really not smart enough. But it's a great tool for figuring things out. Now you got to be careful with Reflector. You can get yourself in trouble because it lets you see things you're not supposed to see and lets you see things that maybe aren't supported. And so you got to be careful. But it's one of those tools that's great for figuring out how stuff works. And Trevor Seward's in the chat room. I know that he uses Reflector or a Reflector-like tool when he's troubleshooting things like, the regressions in the April cumulative update. So it's a good tool to have. It's kind of tough to use if you've got somebody that that uses it. Having them kind of walk you through it and see, show you how it works the first time really helps. I know I kind of struggled a little bit with it till somebody walked me through it, but that's a good tool. Hitting F12 in Internet Explorer. One of my so hitting F12 in Internet Explorer brings up a little developer console that lets you see values in your web page and things like that. But one of my favorite things that you can do with F12 in Internet Explorer is change the text in SharePoint dialog boxes. And this is just as juvenile as it gets. But at TechEd, Shane and I were doing our install session, our day-long thing, and we were creating a web app or something like that. And the screen comes up and it says this shouldn't take long, which of course lets you know that it's going to take long. And while this is waiting and taking an eternity, somebody in the class asks if they can change that text. Now what they were really asking is, can you change the static value that, displays that text? You can't do that in a supported fashion as far as I know. Well, without a language pack or something. But what you can do is if you hit F12 and poke around in there, you can change the text in the page. So while that page was sitting up there and saying this shouldn't take long, I went in, F12, found the thing, and replaced that text with Shane is a stinker, and then closed the thing. So then the web page came up, the wheel was spinning, and it said Shane is a stinker, ... Granted, not a lot of work to do, not a lot of actual work you can do with that requires you to change that. But F12 inside of Internet Explorer does let you see some things behind the scenes. It helps you troubleshoot some stuff. Now this is one that I've not tried. He's also got a thing in here that's got some PowerShell tools for Visual Studio. I have to check those out. A REST client for Google Chrome. Some other things. Another good one in here is a SMTP server for test environments. And that's a good one if you've got a test environment and you want to test incoming email or outgoing email or something. It's a good little tool. I didn't go over all of them. Tobias has a bunch of great tools in there, but I highly recommend that you pop that open and just see if there's some new tools that you can add to your arsenal. And the folks in the chat room are talking about how the F12 stuff inside of IE is good for troubleshooting CSS. I honestly don't ever troubleshoot CSS, but apparently if you do that, F12 in Internet Explorer is probably a good friend. Though honestly, if you do that, you probably already knew that, so I'm probably not helping anybody out with that. Okay, so another fun thing, and this is a couple of weeks old here, but Mike Robbins is a friend of mine. He is a PowerShell guy, and he's got a great little blog post out there. And this was something that I have wanted to do for a while, and just didn't know that there was a way to do it. And he's got a blog post on using the PowerShell commandlet PSEdit to open up PowerShell files while you're in the ISE. So here's the use case for this. You've got the PowerShell ISE up. You've got maybe a script loaded. It's up in your top window. You've got the console at the bottom, and you're poking around, and you're like, oh, I want to open up this other PS1 file. So before this, or in the time I like to think of as the dark ages, you had to take your hand off of the keyboard. I know, stick with me here. Take your hand off of the keyboard, take it all the way over to your mouse, and then push your mouse all the way up to file, all the way up, and then file open, and then try to find that PS1. It was grueling. It was horrible work. What I've always wanted to do was know of a way inside of PowerShell to open up PS1 files, because normally if I'm tweaking PowerShell files, I'm in the directory where this is at. So it turns out there has always been a way to do that, and that's the PSEdit command. So if you're in the ISE and you've got that console at the bottom, you can type PSEdit, / Todd's cool new script.ps1, and it'll just pop up in another tab inside of PSEdit, inside of the ISE. So that is pretty handy. I love that. That's just a great, easy little tip, but I'm in the ISE all the time, and I'm doing that all the time, and so it's great to know that there's a way to do that. So thanks to Mike for shouting that out. Did get to see Mike at TechEd, got to shake hands and all that, so that was good good catching up with him. But if you're a SharePoint guy, you got to know PowerShell, and so this is just another weapon in that arsenal. Speaking of PowerShell, I just saw another thing this week, and I don't know that it's new. Let me load it up here. Normally, I'm more prepared than this. This is a script. Yeah, it's from November. This is a script that you can use. It's from the TechNet gallery, and this is a script that you can use to copy all of the files or documents in one SharePoint list or library to another SharePoint list or library in the same farm. So this is a kind of a handy little thing that you can use. Basically, you've got a source and a destination. You run the script, it walks through the source and takes every item and copies it over the destination. Pretty handy. I think we've all been in a situation where we've wanted to do that and not known an easy way to do it. So this script is handy, it's free, it does that. A couple of things about it is that it only works inside of the farm. So it uses the object model to copy these files back and forth. So say I couldn't use it to copy files from my on-prem SharePoint to Office 365 or something like that. Couldn't use it for that. It does use the object model. But it's pretty quick, pretty easy. to do. Now, I bring that up about the object model because I've got a blog post that I published here a month or so ago on how to upload files to SharePoint, which is essentially, half of what this thing does. It downloads the files and then it uploads them. And that blog post of mine shows both methods. So it shows the object model method, which is what that script uses because it's inside the farm. But my blog post also shows how to do it to a remote machine. So if you're, like doing it up to the cloud or something like that, you can do it that way. So depending on what your use case is between our two scripts, you should be able to figure out what you need to do. Plus, it had been, a couple of minutes since I mentioned my own blog, so kind of felt like I had to do that. I get a little itch, kind of a little buzzing in the back of my head if I don't pimp my own blog once in a while. So I thought I'd throw that out there. All right, another topic, and this one I never ever get sick of this. Now I hope you're all sitting down. If you're listening to this and you're in your car, you should probably maybe get towards the side of the road because you're going to be shocked, and I can't be held responsible for any reaction that you would have for that. But the last cumulative update that came out for SharePoint 2013, so this is the April 2013 cumulative update for SharePoint 2013. Well, it's got a couple of problems. I know. This kind of rocks everybody's world, kind of shakes that foundation that you've been building your SharePoint career on. But it's got a couple of problems. Now, at our last Netcast 2 weeks ago, Netcast 200, or 200 to my Espanol-speaking friends, I talked about how there was a bug with the people search and how it screwed up the URLs. There's been uncovered yet another bug with the April 2013 cumulative update. And this is a bug where you cannot convert a classic database to claims in SharePoint 2013 with this cumulative update installed. Now, Trevor Seward's got a pretty good blog post on it at the SharePointFarm.com that kind of walks through, and again, he used that whole reflector thing, shows the code. Essentially, it looks like what happened is they added a whole bunch of new migration stuff in there to make migrating back and forth and migrating into claims, which is good, but in the process of doing that, they broke the scenario that 99% of people convert from, and that's classic. So close. I mean, just so close. Missed it by that much. So if you think you're going to be converting any SharePoint 2010, databases that are classic to SharePoint 2013 that are claims, if you think you're going to be doing that in the near future, don't be putting that April 2013 cumulative update on. It will rain on your parade. It will fix your little red wagon. So I'm sure that when the June cumulative update comes out, that will hopefully be fixed in there. So you can find out about that patch and all of the other patches that come out for SharePoint 2013 if you go to toddklindt.com/SP2013 builds. That will take you to the SharePoint 2013 builds list. For every patch, I've got a link and I've got a list of all the bugs that I know about and things like that. So that's SP2013 builds. Also, if you want to just really keep on the cutting edge of this kind of stuff, you can follow me on Twitter at SP2013patches. And as I update, my wiki and all that kind of stuff, I tweet those things out so you can really keep on the cutting edge of that. So thanks to Trevor for bringing that in. While I'm talking about that builds list, I did a couple of things. I added a couple of things to it here the last week. Kind of curious what you think. Let me know. I've ended up, for the 2013 build list, I've added a bunch of stuff. So it's not just SharePoint anymore. Because, I tell everybody they should use the Office web apps. I added that because the Office web apps get patched. And then the workflow manager needs to get patched. So I added that on there. And then I need to add the distributed cache. And I just haven't edited the page to do that yet. So that page got really long. And obviously every couple of months it's going to get 4 more updates to it. So I put anchors at the top. I put little jump to links. And so let me know what you think about that so you can jump to each particular product. And then I've got a back to the top link up there. So I am sad to say, not sad to cough. but I will edit that out. I'm sad to say how long it took me to add that to this page because I'm not a web designer. So I bet I spent 2 hours adding all that anchor text and all that to that page. Yeah, we'll round down. We'll say 2 hours. But I really think it helps keep that page a little more manageable and navigable. But if you've got any ideas about how I can fix that or anything else on that page, by all means, let me know. You can hit me up on Twitter at Todd Klindt or email me todd.klindt@rackspace.com and let me know what you think. Because the whole purpose of that page is to make it easy for you guys to consume this stuff. So let me know what you think. But I will be adding those distributed cache patches soon, so that way you can keep up with this. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that after the April 2014, and I've been saying 2013 this whole time, after the April 2014 cumulative update came out, that security patch came out. That's MS14-022, and I don't know if I talked about that during the last Netcast or not, but that is a security patch that patches against a possible remote code exploit on SharePoint 2013 and 2010 and all kinds of stuff. So it's kind of a big deal, but that patch has been rumored to have some of these same issues that the April 2014 cumulative update has. So if you want to roll out MS14-022, do yourself a favor. Put it in your test environment first and test these two things. Test the upgrading from classic to claims and test the people search, because they potentially are broken with that patch as well. Now, hopefully the June CU will include that security fix and anything else. And man, I even wrote 13 in my notes. Man, what is it about this? But you know, these security patches, you kind of want to get them out soon, but you got to be careful. And Trevor Seward is telling me now that bringbackULSviewer.com is live, and that's just one of the perils of doing a live show. I'm busy doing this, and they're out there goofing around. So my idea that I was going to steal from Jack, I can't steal because Trevor stole it first, but I do get a 404, so it doesn't. So it looks like Trevor bought it and pointed it at Azure, but hasn't set a site up yet. So hopefully by the time you listen to this, bringbackULSviewer.com will be live, and we can start a campaign to get that back up and going. So, but if you have any problems with the April 2014 cumulative update, or the April 2013 cumulative update for that matter, or MS14-022, let me know. Your fellow SharePoint admins will appreciate it, because they go out there, they're looking for this kind of help. So if you found a problem, chances are it's going to get somebody else later on. So do them a favor, let me know, and I'll put it out there. I give credit to everything. If you go out there and look, you'll see I thank Trevor for his, and Oleg for the one that he did. So I'm not trying to steal anybody's glory, just trying to have a good comprehensive list. So I think that's it for now, for tonight. But let's move on to everybody's favorite part, the shameless self-promotion. Oh, I did want to mention, so in the chat room, when we were talking about the tools that everybody uses, somebody mentioned Notepad++. Looking for that now so I can give them proper credit. But Notepad++ is also a great tool. I use that for, okay, it looks like, SP Jeff Jones. So Notepad++, another free tool. You can go out and search for it. I use that all the time for editing XML files and editing PS1 files for that matter too. If I don't have the ISE open, I fire that up. Great little thing. Couple of things that Notepad++ has that I really love is it's got the differencing thing built in, so you can open up 2 XML files or 2 whatevers, and it will show you which lines are different, things like that. It's pretty great. It's got some scripting, some very mild scripting built in, so if you need to make repetitive changes, you can do that. Great tool. Not on Tobias's link, but you should download it. It's a good tool. So now on to shameless self-promotion. My video it caught up, so I'm curious if there's going to be a hiccup there. My video froze. Shameless self-promotion, kind of low right now. We've got a couple of things on the hopper, but we've got a couple that I'm for sure going to be doing in 2 months. A month and a half. I'll be in Sydney, Australia, July 15th and the 16th for the Sharing the Point conference there. And then the next week I'll be in New Zealand, the 22nd and 23rd of July in Auckland at the Langham. And I'll be doing a couple of sessions. Going to be doing my load testing with Visual Studio session that I did at the SharePoint conference, and then a PowerShell with SharePoint online session. And then I think I'm also going to be at the Sydney SharePoint user group that Tuesday night or something like that. Basically just going around hanging out with everybody. So if you're in either of those areas or going to be at either of those events, for goodness sakes, hook me up, let me know, shoot me an email, do whatever. We'll get together. It'll be a good time, I promise. And then in September, I don't have the dates, but I'll be once again going to Stockholm for the SharePoint Exchange Forum. That's Joran Huisman's event, 11th year. I'm not sure what I'm going to be speaking on yet with that, but I'll be out there as well. So if you're going to be in Stockholm or Sweden or whatever, definitely swing by and check that one out. And then got a couple of the things that I'm trying to get accepted for, but I'll let you know if those show up. So thanks everybody. Apologize to the folks in the chat room. We had some audio problems ahead of time. Got started a little late, but they helped me out. Got me squared away. So I do appreciate that as always. Always good lively chat. So I do this little mess every Monday night at 8:30 Central Time in the U.S. At TechEd, I had a couple people talk to me, and they were both here in the Americas, but they were mentioning that the 8:30 p.m. time didn't work very well for them. And a couple of years ago, I did a European version of this, and I did it 12 hours earlier. So I did it at 8:30 a.m. on Monday morning, and that puts it at a little more reasonable time for Europe. It puts it at 1 in the afternoon, noon, something like that, depending on where you're at. So if there is interest in that, if you're in Europe and you'd like to join it live, or if you're in the U.S. and you just want to screw off for an hour during work, either one's fine. I don't judge. Shoot me an email. Let me know. If I get a couple of people asking for it, I'll do that, jiggle some things around, and do it Monday morning once instead of Monday night, just a little one-off deal. But if you've got interest in that, let me know, and I'll see what I can do. So thanks, everybody. As always, chat room was great. And if you've got topics or whatever, hit me up. Again, I'm at Todd Klindt on Twitter, or todd.klindt@rackspace.com. Thanks, everybody, for your time, and I'll see you next week.